Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to the museum today on a public holiday. Once again, a special thank you to all the teachers who continuously support our events, take up their private time to bring learners to the museum. We really do appreciate it. Today marks the 40th anniversary of the student uprisings of 1976. The youth rose up, as we know. They challenged the Bantu education, and in particular being taught in Afrikaans. They were obviously met with police brutality, and many of them died during that period. It is a time of commemoration, a time of appreciation for what they have done for us, because that event was a catalyst for change in our history. Today we wish to provide a platform in a relevant and a safe space for young people to be able to voice their opinions, to tell us what they are thinking about. And if all that comes out of here, out of this forum, is that people become more active citizens in struggling and fighting and lobbying for what we believe is necessary in our lives, our rights, our needs, our wants, and to be able to, in this kind of forum, distinguish which of those is what is more important to us. And so what I want to just say before I go on to more official things is, when Eusebius and I were looking at topics for today's forum, we came up with a whole range. It just slipped off our tongues like that. Then we gave it to the schools and we said to the teachers, please identify someone who you think would like to be on the panel and hear what they want to speak about. All 4 panelists came up with totally different topics. It had nothing to do with what we said. And that to me tells me that me as an older person, I'm totally out of touch with young people's reality. So hopefully today I'll get a little bit more in touch with what you are about. Just some housekeeping. You can keep your phones on, but please do keep it on silent. Please tweet about the event, Facebook about the event, and use the hashtag Apartheid Museum. And now I'm going to hand you over to Eusebius, who is the moderator of this forum. Eusebius is a political analyst, a journalist, amongst many, many other titles. He's also world debate champion. I don't think he likes me to go into too much of his CV, but we're very grateful for you, Eusebius, for coming and moderating for us again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davey. Can we give her a round of applause, please, for putting on the event? Actually, this is the one time I don't mind my CV being read out, but I'll get to the self-indulgent part of that at the end of proceedings. My name is Eusebius McKaiser, and I'm going to be moderating, I'm going to be listening, I'm going to be shutting up. I like the sound of my own voice usually, but preferably with people my age or older. So my job today is really just to make sure that the process allows as many of you to speak as possible. I want to welcome all of you here and echo what Wady has just said, which is that 40 years later, we have an opportunity as a country of all ages, all generations, to commemorate what happened in 1976, not far from here. And so I cannot think of a better venue to be in today than the Apartheid Museum, which amongst many other roles exists to try and make sure that we never forget. We never forget the past. We can never appreciate what goes on in present-day South Africa if we don't have a deep sense of history. And one of the things as South Africans that we all need to learn to do is to be better scholars of history, including our own history. I hope it's not the first time you've come to the museum. If it is, welcome to the museum. And if you have time afterwards, some of the teachers, I know some of you might be restricted, to take time out to also just enjoy the museum, to be able to do the tour, if not today, on another occasion. I recently brought my dad and my sister here, and a very emotional experience, even for my dad, who lived through apartheid. The memory of what has gone before is sometimes what we shut out because it is so important to keep the peace. I hope today we will keep the peace physically, but that we will agree and disagree on the important issues. We want to know what are the issues on your mind as young South Africans. The future is in your hands. We have a young demographic as a country, and yet, as all of you know, and I was just saying to the director earlier, you are shut out from public debate, from public discourse if you open your radio channels, TV channels, the newspapers, you find old farts like myself on those pages, and yet we are a statistical minority. And there's something wrong with that picture. What we tend to do, and definitely one thing that in our collaboration with this series of debates, we will make sure that we don't do, but what we tend to do in the media in this country is to have a big event on Youth Day. So on Youth Day, you become visible to us. The rest of the year, we don't care. June the 15th, we don't want to hear from you. June the 17th, we don't want to hear from you. June the 16th, you have outside broadcasts. It's a Kumzi, Hector Peterson, the Apartheid Museum. And I hope that we can take this opportunity to challenge ourselves, especially as adults, to make sure that young people have a stake in public conversation. That's about as much as you're going to hear from me today. I'm going to tell you how we will proceed, and then really my job is the easy job, which is to listen and to learn from you here today, and to allow you to agree and to disagree with each other, to tell your own stories as we go ahead. So I'm going to introduce our panelists as they will speak. Each of them have chosen their own topic today that they'd like to speak to, which they've thought about very hard. And after each one has said a couple of minutes of words on the topic they've chosen, I will open it up to you. Okay, but before I do that, because it is a public holiday, so I want to firstly affirm all the teachers who are here and all the young people who are here. Thank you so much. On a day like today, it's easy to sleep in, to have it turned into Bride Day instead of a commemoration for the youth of 1976. So I want to applaud you for coming today when you could have done something else. Your future is important, and I think making the choice to be part of the delegation of your school or institution to come to today's event and youth forum is something that I really want to laud. Even as older South Africans, we sometimes forget to take seriously our commemorative days. I was at the gym this morning. My six-packs will come in a couple of months' time. And I overheard someone saying very jovially to someone else, "Hey, happy Freedom Day." And I thought, my goodness, Freedom Day. So even old people don't understand the significance of June the 16th, which I think is a tragedy. So just to, affirm the schools who are here, I hope they're all here. Otherwise, some of them will get affirmation in absence. Fred Norman, Fefeni, Aurora, Queens, Boys and Girls Town, and East Rand School of the Arts. Please give yourselves a round of applause for coming out today. And if there's anyone I've left out or a school that I've left out, please do say so during the Q&A so that we can also acknowledge you being here today. And thank you so much for the educators who've brought their students here today. A little bit later, we will have a dance event. I'm going to say a bit more. So we also welcome Vuyani Dance Theatre, who will be putting on some fantastic entertainment for us before we will break for something to eat. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to ask Yves Lutundula, who is a first-year student at EFDA, to speak on the topic that he has chosen, the title of which is Impact of Culture on the Youth. Can we please put our hands together and welcome him to this space?
Hello, can you guys hear me clearly? Okay, sure. My name is Yves Lutundula. I'm going to be talking about the impact of culture on the youth. Before I begin, I just want to say I'm a first-year student at a university, at a college, a private college. So I'm kind of around the same age as you guys. So I don't want you guys to take it as a presentation like I'm telling you guys what to do. I just hope that you guys can relate to me, and we both receive an experience and learning from one another. Yes, I'm a first-year student at a private college. I'm actually studying filming. So if you have seen me or see me looking at the cameras, it's because that's what I love doing. I've actually done drama for 5 years, so I've performed on stages. I've performed at the National Arts Festival, so that's what I do. Essentially, what I want you guys to get from me speaking today is to just learn from what I'm saying. I'm not trying to dictate and trying to tell you guys to get this from what I'm saying. I just hope that I make you guys think and consider yourselves and your environment. So I'm going to be talking about today the impact of culture on the youth. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to first talk about culture, the youth, and then the impact of culture on the youth. So I'll be beginning with culture. So, while I was doing research about culture, many times I saw that they said culture is a set of beliefs, ideas, customs. And, for me, I felt that was really vague, not just as a part of the youth, but I think anybody can say it's really vague. We hear it so often, culture. We always hear this word, but do we actually really know what it means? Because culture doesn't just refer to traditional background, like being Zulu, Xhosa, or things like that. There's many different forms of cultures that in terms of religion, in terms of social environments, in terms of social media, in terms of even music, in terms of our interests. So the reason why I chose this topic is because if we are unaware of the impact that culture has on us, as the youth especially, it's really easy to catch on to the wrong things, because nowadays things are so easily accessible. The internet is one click away. We all have phones, and it's so easy. Information is exposed at such a fast rate, and sometimes we do not receive the right information. And we don't know where to go. Essentially, I'm not saying everyone, but sometimes you can't really talk to your parents or elders about certain things that you're going through, because sometimes they can't relate because they haven't grown up in this time period that we are growing up in. So you don't know who to ask, because you also can't ask your friends because they're going through the same things as you. So you kind of get lost in the mix and you just catch on to anything that you can grab, but it doesn't really teach you or build you up. So that's why I'm talking about culture, because choosing the right culture, and as I said, I'm not saying the right culture as in everyone must do this and be like this. No, we're all different and we have our different personalities. But choosing the right culture for you that makes you grow, but doesn't just make you grow, but makes everyone around you grow and your friends, is the right thing that will move South Africa forward, and not just us as separate races, but us as a nation. And that's where I'm going to talk about the youth. Now, with the youth, many times I've heard that. And even though I form part of the youth, I feel like, and I felt like, I don't really know what people are saying. It's like we're given a position and we're given a role, but we're given a job, but we really don't know what the job description is. We don't know what we have to do. It's like they're saying work, but you're like, okay, work at what? So you go work depending on what you find interesting in your personality. But you don't know why you're doing it, and you actually don't know the effect that each of us as individuals have, not just in our own lives, but the whole country. So many times we hear the youth, and today is even Youth Day. And I'm pretty sure that there's many of us, when we even hear Youth Day, Freedom Day, we think, don't have to go to school, public holiday. But it's actually more important than that. There's a day set aside for specifically us. And they say it all the times, but we are actually the future of not just this country, but of the world. So it's an important job that has been bestowed upon us, and we need to take it seriously in order to move ourselves forward, but not just ourselves, those around us and our country forward. So it's really important that we understand, that we are the youth and we've been given power, and we've always been told that with, great power comes great responsibility. So we must always take this job seriously, and we mustn't just think that on June 16th, because it's Youth Day, this is the day we have to be like this, or we feel empowered on this day. No, it should actually be Youth Day every single day. Just because it's every single day is not labeled as Youth Day doesn't mean we shouldn't put the active effort in to change not just our surroundings, but the world. And that's what I'm talking about, the impact of culture. Though culture is, really diverse, and there's many past cultures, and there are still cultures being formed by, as I said, the different types of cultures that you get, from social media to religious cultures to cultures that refer to heritage. There's still lots of cultures that are being formed and made today, and from today onwards, there will still be more cultures formed. So we need to be aware of what we put out there, what we show. There are so many cultures out there, and you need to be able to identify which one is right and which one is wrong. And you literally show what cultures you believe in the way you talk, in the way you dress. And people, that is how people will think of you and how people judge you. I'm sure the way I dressed today showed or conveyed a certain message. Maybe the way I'm speaking now has changed the message that you guys thought of me when you first saw me, but essentially it comes from, the culture and the way you portray yourself. Because culture is, it's a type of idea that works psychologically. You don't think it's affecting you, and some people might not admit that it is, but culture actually does affect you, because what you're interested in determines what cultures you actually follow. and what you give off to other people. So that's why it's really important for you to follow the culture that you're interested in, and that's really good. You must always be yourself and do what you like and what you love, and always follow your dreams. But you mustn't fall into the trap of getting lost and not knowing who you are, because it's so easy to get the wrong information out there. And though it seems like there's so many people around you, I'm sure I can say we all still do feel like individuals. And when you have the specific time when you're alone and you think, okay, why am I actually here? What is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to achieve? That is also determined by what you follow. Because how can I go, let's say, how can I be a baker if all I've ever known is engineering? But maybe it's because I didn't expose myself to the right things. And this is the time where, you learn, because when we grow up, and I'm not saying all the adults in this room, it's like that for you, but we still have time, So it's about taking it seriously and really acknowledging the fact that there are dangers out there, and we need to take the conscious effort to get to know those dangers. So we're not just helping anybody else, but we're actually helping ourselves. Because once you make a mistake, well, I'm sure everyone has made a mistake in the past, you can never take it back. It's in the past, but it's not the point of looking at the mistake. It's about growing and learning from it. So that's why it needs to be a must to really follow the right cultures and really create your own culture. Yes, essentially create your own culture that just does not have a positive impact on your life, but others around you. And that's the impact, of culture. There are positives and there are negatives to everything in life. And with culture, as I said, it's psychological. You don't think you're doing something, you think maybe that's you. I can tell you now, it's probably something that you follow or a trait that you pick up. That's why it's imperative to pick up the right habits that move you forward, to follow a culture that moves you forward. And you'll even get to see and know that you're not going to be the only person moving forward. Because when you're in a circle of friends and you do good things, you are the company you keep. So you'll influence others and those around you to also be better and do better. And if we all work together towards the same goal, and I essentially think it's just two simple things, just showing each other love and attention, we can make not just South Africa the best country, but we can really move each other forward as human beings, as a whole. We could really make this a better place, because it's so easy to complain about, things that happen in our life. But it's not about complaining, because the only people that have power is us to change our surroundings. And that's why we actually need to build and conserve a culture of being positive, of helping one another, of showing each other love, of showing each other attention. Not just on Youth Day, but first, we need to take baby steps. So as the youth, because we can relate to one another. Because I'm just not a wise man that has done or has achieved a lot of things through life. No, I'm the same as you guys. But, there are some things that I know that you don't know. And there's some things that you don't know, some things that you know that I don't know. And the only way I'll know that is if you teach me and I teach you. The only way we can move forward is by being positive and working together and creating a culture that benefits us, but the youth after us. And we still have time. So really, it's just about sticking together, working with one another, and creating a culture that will move us forward, not just as a country, but as individuals, and working together in unison to make this world a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yves. Our second speaker will be Sydney, who's a first-year education student at WITS, who will be speaking to the topic of young women's complacency when it comes to gender equality. Can we please welcome her?
Hello. Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Eusebius said, I'm Sydney Storm Davey. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a student at the WITS University, and I'm studying education currently. Sorry, my twang, wow. So in the previous month of May, we had a program running called Teaching Experience. And in teaching experience, we were exposed to different workshops and different opinions from not only our lecturers that we were used to, but also people that came outside of our schools to come and introduce themselves and speak about relevant issues in South Africa. In one of our workshops, we spoke about topics like racism, the Students' Fees Must Fall program, and one in particular that stood out for me was gender inequality. And this is one of the reasons why I chose to speak about this topic today. So, after I'm done speaking, I'd like you to question yourself and just find it in yourself to try and understand exactly what I'm saying. It may come off a bit brash to you, and some may feel offended, but I just want you to be open-minded to the topic. The point of it is just to cause a little stir in your minds and help change your mindsets about certain things. So I'd like to ask a few rhetorical questions, and this is mainly aimed at the female youth. So why is it that in 2016, women are still accepting inferiority to the man? Why, after all that has been done in the past to establish women's rights by people like Raima Musa or Lillian Ngoyi or Helen Joseph, that there are still so many women and young women that choose to just give in to male dominance? Obviously, we can look at things like culture. Pardon me for using the broad term culture, Eves, but culture and religion, because it's tradition. We've grown up being taught that, not everyone, but in certain cultures, we've grown up being taught that, no, the man is the provider in the relationship, and you are the housewife. There are also things such as domestic violence, which cause women to be too scared to actually speak up to the man and just be okay with it and just accept the fact that it's okay if my husband says that this is how it's going to happen, this is how it's going to happen. I have no right, I have no voice. I don't need to speak up because he said it. There's also things such as women, this is branch from the past, but women not being able to open their own businesses or own their own companies or lead their own, not really lead their own marches, but be dominant figures in political issues. And during the debate at the workshop, I had a bit of an argument with one of my fellow students about this whole thing, and I noticed that I feel maybe like I'm the only person that feels a certain way about this thing, because there's so many students and young women that are just agreeing with how things were in the past. And I feel as the youth of South Africa, from all that we've done in the past, all that our elders have done for us in the past, why are we doing this? Why are we going back to it? Why are we not fighting? Why are we not questioning? Why are we not interacting with it? Why are we just okay with it? And this is why I hope in the Q&A that you guys would be able to give me feedback on it. And also, I have a couple of questions for the boys. Do you honestly feel that it is okay that you are going to be the provider? Do you not also want to be provided for by your wife or your girlfriend? Do you think that, sorry, but I'm not saying she must be your blesser of sorts, but, I'm just trying to get you to be open-minded to it and to understand that it's okay. You don't have to. It's not your responsibility to provide for your wife. It's not your responsibility to provide for your children and your family. Yes, it's like, your parents have to help you until you're 18, obviously, but rather be like, shared opportunities. It's not so much of like, I lost my thought now. But I mean, simple things like girls aren't allowed to like the color blue, and they must only like pink, are small kind of covert ways of gender inequality, not direct, obviously, and very subtle, but also just it's a predetermined thing, and it's like we've all decided it because of the past. Okay, I hope you understand, sorry. Okay. Well, in my honest opinion, I feel that there should be equal rights for both the males and females. Because as I am a woman myself, I feel like I have the exact same capabilities as this young man in front of me, or this young woman next to him. Do you understand? No, I'm not trying to like pick on you. But because I have the same working hands, I have the same working feet, you know? It's not like I can't. It's not like I'm not strong enough, because I am. And I feel like we need to understand that we are strong and we are capable. And yeah, you know, like it's such a pressing topic for me, and I just start to ramble so much about it because I feel so passionate about it. And sometimes I may cloud my thoughts, you know, and I may speak over myself, but essentially the point I'm trying to get across is the fact that you need to question yourself and you need to work on yourself for the future. And as much as Eve spoke about how we need to change ourselves and we need to create our own cultures, I completely agree with him, because if you don't do that, then you're going to mislead yourself and you're going to mislead your children. So my ending statement is, will you please just take yourself out of the situation and put yourself in someone else's shoes and see, you know what, maybe, yes, I'm a man and I am able, but you know what, she is too. And we need to give her the opportunity to do what she needs to do. And she will do the same for me if I will do the same for her. It's a respect thing. Okay? Sorry, I didn't know how to end this one. But thank you.
Thank you, Sydney, for blessing us with your thoughts. Our next speaker is Shenia Steenveld, who's a grade 11 learner from Fred Norman, and she has chosen to speak on the question of the value of education. Can we please put our hands together and welcome her to this forum?
Hi, everybody. Education can be defined as the training of people's mind and abilities to acquire the necessary skills. So today I'm speaking about how serious education is really to you. And can we carry on the legacy of the youth of 1976? So what I know is South Africa's education is characterized by pockets of disasters. The right to an education is a universal entitlement. So what I constantly ask myself is, if who we are is based on how educated we are, and if that education is taken away, then who are we? Mpepule Primary School outside Lephalale, Limpopo, was one of the few catastrophes that happened when the community decided to burn the school down for their own selfish ambitions, and not thinking how detrimental it would be for that young kids in that school. In this regard, their right has been violated. South Africa's Basic Education Minister, Angie Motshekga, had referred to South Africa's education system as a national catastrophe and a crisis. This statement of our education minister made me worry and reminded me of Youth Day. The 16th of June 1976, where young children took education so serious that they were willing to do anything for it, even lose lives. It has been 40 years since quality education has been introduced to us. A wise man once told me that he remembers it like it was yesterday. The first time he voted, the feeling of being freed from oppression, the feeling of being educated, most of all. The youth of 1976 had shed blood fighting for freedom and quality education, which is now said to be heroic and historic. The youth of 1976 had fought for us, the future generations, to have a good education. Today I look into a classroom and I see what the youth of 1976 would have wanted to see then. Different race pupils sitting in one class, getting the same amount of education, in peace and harmony. I definitely would say that the youth of 1976 fought for a very good cause. But what I constantly ask myself is, are we carrying on that legacy? If we were carrying on that legacy, we would understand that education is serious and a very sensitive topic, and we would take it so serious that we wouldn't even want to stay one day out of school because we knew what people did for us so we could have a quality education. In 2014, the matric pass rate was 75.8%, and in 2015 it dropped to 70.7%. We, the youth, have been given too much freedom, and perhaps that is why we tend to take advantage of education. In the apartheid era, the youth craved education. The youth of 1976 integrated and became one so that they can fight for what we have today. Then we get, 2016, the youth. We are commonly known as the youth with no vision. And I constantly ask myself, why is that? Is it because our matric rate is dropping? Or is it because we can't carry on a legacy? Or is it because we have given or is it because we have been given too much freedom and rights? Most of us have become ignorant to the fact that without education, we are doomed. Education is a tool in life that can be used to determine where we're going, no matter where we come from. Because what I constantly say to myself is, it doesn't matter where I come from, but it's where I'm going to. Today, I look at the Youth Day as a rear view mirror. I look at it and I just glance at it, but I focus on what is ahead of me. And that, to me, is the youth of 1976 is a reminder to me that I should take education so serious, that it's such a sensitive matter to me that if I stay out of school, I feel bad. I actually want to go to school. I can be how sick I'm going to go to school because I know how serious people took it back then. Education is the key to all success, and we all know that. But yet we tend to take advantage of it. And I constantly ask, why is that? And even the great Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Not Gauteng, not Limpopo, not South Africa, but the world." So education is a thing that can take you places. The lack of education has proven that the youth is not unemployed, but unemployable. The University of Fort Hare was burnt. This university had great politicians like Nelson Mandela, Robert Mugabe, and Thabo Mbeki, and yet I ask myself, why did they burn it? Then again, for their own selfish ambitions. In today's life, we need to start thinking that it's not only one man for himself, because I hear the saying that no man is an island. And I've added my own part, a man is a city, because without your neighbor, you can be nothing. Because you need to love your neighbor the way you love yourself, and that is how the youth of 1976 actually achieved what they wanted. A battle that was won today. In today's life, the youth doesn't fight for education, but they're fighting against the social ills that is affecting education. So in that statement that I just made, I say that at least we are doing something to try and carry on the legacy, but is it enough? Is the quality of education enough? That is what I ask. Matric students achieve certificates, but how many actually receive marks that will allow them into university? And then again, I ask myself, is 40% a true reflection of what standards we can achieve? South Africa can have a much higher pass rate if our youth takes a stand and integrates and become one the way we were in the apartheid era. I'm not saying become like the youth of 1976, but I'm saying let it be a rear view mirror that you can glance at so you can become a leader and a producer or a president or whatever, because education can take you to that places. Education is only education once you can give back to this world. By helping it move forward and gaining a higher standard of education. Education should be a reminder of the youth of 1976, the youth that fought to make our country what it is today, wanting fair and just education, which we have today. The youth of 2016 has always been motivated by materialistic achievements. And I ask myself, why is that? Why is it when we get a car and we get a house, people is happy, but when people get a degree and things, it's not as big as a house, or it's not as big as a car. But that matric and that degree can take you far further than a house and a car can. Because you see, materialistic things will fade, but your degree will never. Because you will have it always inside of you. You will always be that educated person. And you won't even think of, okay, I have a car, I have a house, but what gave me my car and what gave me my house? My education. It took me so far that I could become a president and have a house and have a car. We as the youth of 2016 needs to realize that there is more to life than just materialistic stuff. And we need to also realize 40 years ago, people fought for us and the future generations that is to come to have a great education and to have a bright future. We need to take our education much more serious. Because if we want that bright future and if we want to go places, you're going to have to study and you're going to have to work so hard that it takes you to that places. Thank you.
Thank you, Shania. That was very special. I'm not sure which I enjoyed more, every one of your truth bombs or the audience going, And last but not least, we have another high school learner on the panel from Fefeni Secondary School who will be speaking on the impact of the economy of the youth. Can we also welcome to the Youth Forum today, Khonsi Tlalogang.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Khonsi Tlalogang and I'm representing Fefeni Secondary School, the heart of Vilakazi Street, of course. Basically gonna talk about economic issues faced by the youth. Not to waste time, there is a youth who have completed their grade 12s with either bachelor's or diploma degree and higher certificate, but then they struggle to get themselves tertiary education because they struggle due to lack of finance or because their parents can't afford to pay for their children. Yes, indeed there are organizations with Yes, indeed, there are organizations which offer bursaries, but then you have to first apply and then wait to see whether you do qualify or not. Banks do offer student loans, but after finishing your semester at a tertiary level, a student then has to pay back the money immediately after the student is employed, which will feel like he or she will be paying that money for her or him, his entire life. Yes, South Africa is the richest country in Africa and still a developing country. But why is it acting so desperate? Students who cannot be in tertiary levels definitely feel useless when they are doing nothing, sitting at home. And such issues lead to unemployment of youth and poverty. Some of them end up giving in to substance abuse and being criminals. Indeed, South Africa has won the political freedom, but what about economical freedom? I individually do support the initiative of Fees Must Fall, but then I do support it if it goes that it only takes it only takes students who have reached an average percentage of 75. Why is it that a black child has to suffer in order for him to get into tertiary education? And that's the question. Why is that? Thank you.
Thank you, Khonse. Khonse also has the shortest tie that I've ever seen. Show them that tie that you have.